on my phone today. There's a very bad connectivity and a storm brewing outside. Okay, so a very good evening to you and Achin and all our panel members, esteemed panel, and all the guests who've tuned in this evening. Talking about creativity, it is my view that man is naturally creative, inquisitive, and restless. And over the millennia, he has discovered new lands, harnessed wind, discovered new medicines, conquered space, and has even invented so many marvels of science, from the Star Wars program to the microchip. And he's achieved all this through his creativity. Not to mention, works of art and great works of sculpture, music, drama, writings. And the last 50 years, they say, has seen a greater spurt in scientific and digital progress than in the preceding 500 years. Now, what is needed for man to be creative, in my view, is the point of being, there has to be that fertile soil of necessity being the mother of invention. There also needs to be that nurturing of the restless spirit in human beings. And also, a bit of boredom helps. When I think of creativity, I also think of people like Vasco da Gama, who, if he hadn't been born in Portugal, overlooking the Atlantic, and if he hadn't been born at that time, where the Pope had encouraged European nations to colonize, he would not have discovered India and the Indies. So it's got to all come together: the time, the need, the person, the fertile imagination. When I say boredom is good, a lot of things come out of boredom. A lot of people, having spent their lives working in a career, have to wait sometimes till they retire at 50 and 60 to find the passion that they've been putting away for so long. And out of this boredom grows great ideas. A lot of our parents, I find, when their kids get bored, they try and stop this boredom by offering, treats outside. Let's buy this new video game. Let's go to a movie. Let's take a car drive. When I think the important thing is to let this boredom fester, because out of boredom grows creativity. They even say there are 5 types of boredom. There's the indifferent boredom, there's apathetic boredom, there's calibrating boredom. But the important ones are the searching and reactant boredom, because it is from this boredom that great things can come out and can rise to the top. Now, looking at something very different. When I was young, I was told that Rolling Stones gathered no moss and that I had to pick a job and stick to it, which is what I did. And that's what boys and girls of the 60s did. There was engineering, medicine, business, architecture, merchant navy, and the armed forces. The MBA hadn't even been thought of. And girls became company secretaries or hostesses or open beauty parlors. And creativity in the form of sports and art was never thought of as professions. 4 decades later, I know that a person can have as many as 6 to 7 careers in a lifetime. And this is perfectly okay. The job market has really opened up. And a person today, young man today, young woman today, can take up almost anything he can think of. There's a career attached to every idea. There's a college degree attached to everything a person wants to do. From culinary skills to psychotherapy to physiotherapy, veterinarians, florists, outdoor camping, homestays, fashion modeling, script writing, motorcycle rallying. Why? A friend of mine even makes his money playing poker in Goa. And it is a great tribute to the school I last worked in that produced people like Vikram Seth, Amitabh Ghosh, Anish Kapoor, and Ram Guha, and a number of designers, musicians, artists, architects doing a lot of good things. Here, the students were encouraged to follow their dreams, supported by teachers in the search for fulfillment and happiness. Many of these students pursued a career in what they learned outside the classroom. Designing, writing, sculpting, photography became their careers. It was not the subjects that they studied that led them to the career. It was what they did in their spare time, which again came out of boredom. Very often we see people having a career that really isn't going along with the grain of their lives. They do it all their lives only to realize later that it was not for them. And I think children have aptitudes, different ways of learning, just as Gardner in his theory of multiple intelligences said that we learn differently. And therefore, I think fulfillment, and careers and jobs are as varied as there are types of kids and interest. Today, a child is loath to follow the parental laid down paths and take the usual routes through life because there is money in everything. He's got to follow his dreams. Um, and it is these things that differentiate the modern generation Z kid. He and she is so tech savvy. They like to break the rules when they are bored. And boredom is a good thing, as I said. Now, what has the corona pandemic done? Well, the pandemic has flipped everything upside down. While so much of our lives has been taken over by the internet and digital world, from banking to booking tickets to calling cabs and ordering food, I feel that schools so far had lagged behind this digital drive. And there are various reasons for this. And so many of our kids are now locked home. But out of this lockdown, a lot of creativity has emerged. Overnight, teachers and kids are learning differently, learning more creativity, and more of this will arise as we improve our internet connectivity and other learning platforms. Not only is the syllabus being transacted by schools, but also schools are having debates, competitions, discussions online. I know that there's an equity issue among students, poor connectivity, management problems, but all this will improve. What have I seen around me in these last 4 months? There have been a lot of things happening online. People are putting exercise regimes, cookery classes, online tuitions, motorcycle maintenance, online financial advice. One of my friends has taken to baking in a very, very big way. He's selling his confectionery. Um, this talent possibly has been lying dormant for years, and it has now had the chance to flourish. There are online virtual museum tours, art classes, music classes, and so many things. In the past 4 months, one has to look around to see the surge of innovations. There's innovative apps incubated in universities. There's robots in hospitals. There's foot-operated dispensing machines. There's simple ventilators that have been made. Online consultation with doctors, and apps for government officials gathering, information. There's been drones monitoring social distancing, and special antibacterial coating for vehicles that are being used now. And over the past 4 months, I've heard of jobs that I've never even known existed. Some people have taken to hydroponic farming, which is actually farming using just water, and it's vertical farming. Young people are starting organic farms, bonsai gardening, bottling of jams and pickles. People have opened pet care centers. It's sort of just a fad. It's something that might turn into a profession. One of those 6 to 7 professions that I said people have in their career. This creativity has been especially important since a lot of people will be working from home after the pandemic. And this start could be the start of something big. I end here by leading you with 3 words that typify the thinking post-pandemic in the world. It's resilience, innovation, and creativity. Thank you, and over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you so much, sir. As always, having you as the opening batsman helps because you always share the most wise visions about the topic that follows. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a privilege having you with us. Up next, we have our next speaker. Our next speaker is Mr. Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO of Notebook, a chartered accountant by training. He was working as a director at Deloitte when he quit and started Notebook. He has worked both in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with a keen interest in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He's a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He's also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to brand strategies. Over to you, Achin.
Shubhayu, am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Good evening, everyone. I once again welcome all of you to this edition of Together for Education webinar hosted by Notebook. A very special welcome to all our distinguished panelists for being with us here today. We indeed look forward to a great session on a topic which is very relevant in today's fast-paced world. Now, a very famous architect who has planned some of the best public spaces around the world once told me, if you want to create a happy and premium urban habitat where people will pay high prices for a space in the sky, in one of those high rises, which they will call home, plant more trees around it. Likewise, if we want the world to be more beautiful and livable, creativity is indispensable. Without it, we will live in a polluted and congested planet where people will forever run a mad race without even knowing where they are headed to. Now, irrespective of how fast-paced the world is, there will always be a cozy corner in all of our hearts and houses for one single word, and that is creativity. Either it be some soft, melodious tune playing from your home theater or coming from somewhere far away in the streets, a familiar song which brings back some sweet nostalgic memories of years gone by and leaves us with a smile on our lips. It may be that lively Mario Miranda painting on your wall that you got from Goa during your last vacation, or that latest Amitabh Ghosh bestseller on your reading table, or that wonderful teapot with impressions of a culture long lost. The footprints of creativity are everywhere for us. In this fast-paced, competitive world, there are only respite. Our soulmates, when we want to spend some me time after a long day at work, very often chasing numbers and targets, which in our twilight years sum up to a big zero. Now, art may have the ability to cheer us up, to entertain us, but it also has the power to effect real change in the world. Pablo Picasso once even said, painting is not meant to decorate apartments. It is an offensive and defensive instrument of war against the enemy. Some artworks throughout history have revolutionized the way we think about politics, social issues, and even art itself. No artwork has become as important a symbol of anti-war movements as this heartbreaking painting by Picasso. The work depicts the overnight bombings of the Spanish city of Guernica in 1937 during the Spanish Civil War. Now, Picasso had been commissioned by the Spanish Republican government to create an artwork and was so disgusted by the atrocity that he chose it as his subject. The painting was made into a full-size replica which hangs in the United Nations headquarters in New York. Now, another very good example is illustrator Norman Rockwell made his career depicting the normalities of American mid-century life, both the good and the bad. Now, this particular painting, painted in 1964, shows a young black girl named Ruby Bridges walking down the road on her way to attend an all-white school. She is flanked by security due to the racial hatred of this incident. She walks past racial slurs written on the walls. It became an iconic image of the civil rights movement. And Obama had put it on display when he invited Bridges to meet him at the White House in 2011. Now, the question is creativity inborn? Picasso once said, every child is an artist. The problem is staying an artist when you grow up. There have been a lot of inconclusive debates and discussions around this. However, irrespective of the outcome, there is one thing that none of us can disagree. Even creative children need patient hearing, support, mentoring, and encouragement from their parents and teachers so as to be able to do justice to their talent. Also, they are very often misunderstood as they may have a different worldview from the guy next door in terms of their priority order. Hence, parents and teachers have a responsibility to try and nurture them with love and empathy. Now, exposure is important, right? As it helps in unleashing the creative spirits. Thus, it is necessary for parents and teachers to give adequate importance to a child's overall development. This includes travel opportunities, reading habits, also the kind of reading material he or she has access to, movies, social interaction with other people who can mentor the child and guide him or her in right direction. Now, I believe that in any creative field, your expression has a lot to do with what you witness around you. And thus the responsibility of creating a favorable ambience for any artistic inclination to further develop lies with parents and teachers, as Mr. Burrett also mentioned. Reflecting on a painting or a poem can inspire innovative solutions to business-related problems. Now, there's very interesting research at South Korea's Hongik University, which proved that appreciating art induces inspiration, which in turn facilitates performance on creative tasks. Results have shown that even simple display of art in the work environment could enhance employees' creative capabilities, thereby driving innovation. Now, there are two very interesting case studies, wherein half of the students were asked to freely look through 9 prints of artwork painted by Van Gogh for 3 minutes. Others spent their time examining 9 photographs depicting objects and landscapes analogous to those features in the Van Gogh painting. Similarly, in the second one, half of the participants read the lyrics of Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind and spent 3 minutes describing the thoughts and feelings the lyrics evoked. The others spent their time writing about their typical daily lives. So the entire populations of students were divided into 2 parts. All were then asked to come up with creative solutions for business-related problems. In both studies, very interesting, they were scored on how many ideas they came up with and their level of originality. The result, those who gazed at the paintings and read Bob Dylan's lyrics came up with more creative ideas than their counterparts on the subsequent tests. Now, these results imply that creativity induced through art may transcend domains and transfer to workplace environments through heightening inspiration, the researchers concluded. But the question is, and also there's a suggestion, that the end result of this research, that firms should employ more art-related creativity training programs to increase their employees' problem-solving abilities. But the question is that this is a fine idea, but why not start earlier? And the best place to start would be during school years. Now, it's not about grades, right? Let's also celebrate creativity. For instance, there will always be many great professionals in the world who will make our lives easier by practicing their craft flawlessly and by doing their job with a certain level of precision. These people work hard during their formative years to absorb the theoretical knowledge and practical training that educational institutes impart, and then use the same with self-discipline and precision for the benefit of society. But however, there will always be a separate section of people who will not follow the conventional path and will be guided more by their heart. Now, these students will trust their instincts and do what they love to do. In the process, they may create tunes, paintings, or literature, which will be cherished and celebrated by generations. Thus, even during formative years at school, let's celebrate creativity and encourage children to pursue their passion. It is very important to connect. Now, any artist needs appreciation to keep their spirits high. Without fans, a star is never born. Thus, it's very important to hold cultural festivals, to encourage children to participate and exhibit their talents. Now, I believe that a school has a huge role in the wholesome development of a child. It is far more important than the role of a college or university, because formative years are the time when you develop your interests, which you later pursue. Unless a child gets to display his talent and also get adequate appreciation and recognition for the same, there is every chance that he will feel disheartened and not pursue it any further. Now, coming to career choices, a child would often want vetting of his ideas from someone who has seen the world more than him. Thus, the role of parent or teacher becomes very important in offering a neutral perspective about the bigger world that exists outside the school campus or home. Choosing a creative career can be unconventional and risky, but it's one life. And if the child has displayed adequate potential and love for his passion, then I'm sure he deserves entire support in the universe. Now, I believe that conventional careers have a set trajectory. Of course, there are statistical outliers, but lives still by and large follow a set pattern. Creative careers are very different. Rise to stardom may be at a very early age, or success may come in quite late. Also, unlike a normal job, earnings may vary considerably from time to time. Thus, it is very important for everyone to understand and appreciate the hard work, courage, and sacrifice that it takes to be an achiever in any creative field. Now, even in this fast-paced world, we all can take efforts to make our lives more creative and to encourage our children to think outside the box. Being silly and playful with them is a great start, but actually producing something is even better. This is because the process of bringing the idea from inspiration to production, I believe, is where they can really begin to see how the creative process works. Perhaps it can be something as simple as writing a short story about the day or trying a new recipe for the breakfast. Anything that gets the imagination going can inspire your kids to think about the world in a different way. Now, bringing creativity into your life and your kids' life is not only useful for helping to lead a richer and more interesting life, but also from a for wholesome growth. I once again thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. We have a great panel today, and I really look forward to hear from them about their real life experiences, which I'm sure will inspire and encourage many of us to follow their creative instincts. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you so much, Achin. With you and Mr. Burrett, we have now possibly set the stage to invite our guest panelists, and we have a stellar panel today. Before we move on to our speakers, a short request to all the ones attending. I know you'll have requests, you'll have questions. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screens to type in those requests, and we will try and accommodate them as best as we can. I would not increase the suspense any further. So let me introduce to you our first set of speakers. Our first set of speakers today are very, very interesting people. We have Dr. Nipa Gandhi, who's a dental surgeon, but nowadays more popularly known as Nikita's mom. Nikhita Gandhi herself has been a decorated student throughout her school life. She finished her schooling in Calcutta and then moved to Chennai to pursue a degree in dentistry. However, being a dentist did not quite sit with her, as she was soon picked up for her singing talents by A.R. Rahman. She is a former student of A.R. Rahman's KM College of Music, and she has lent her voice to such enormously popular songs as Rabta, Ullu Ka Pattha, Meethe Alo, Aao Kabhi Haveli Pe, and Postal Lagwa Do. We could go on and on about this star, but I am quite sure none of you are here to listen to me, and all of you are here eager to listen to both of them. So Nikita and Dr. Gandhi, over to you.
Hi. All right, I'm going to go ahead and speak because I think, okay, we're both unmuted now. Thank you so much for having us on this. And I just like to say that I think since the topic is nurturing talent and speaking about nurturing creative people, I think my mom should do most of the speaking on this webinar.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gandhi. I'm a dental surgeon. So I feel proud and I feel really happy that my daughter is doing so good. The singing career is totally her credit. We had nothing to do with it. It's just that she went with the flow. From my side, I can say so that the parents, they can take care of their children's interests and don't suppress them. See, the thing is, I have to give credit to my mother also, because my mom, she is a chemistry teacher. She is now 84. She's been teaching from her age. When she was 18 in South Point, she was teaching. She started a career since then. And my father, I'm coming from a teaching background only. My father, he was a head and dean of Faculty of Management Studies. So we have teachers. Even my sister is a teacher. My brother, he's a teacher. He's a doctor plus teacher. So all teachers. I'm the only one who's practicing dentist. You know, like I go to my clinic and all. So when Nikitha was born, and then you know, she was quite inquisitive, and somehow I had this. Somehow I didn't want her to buy those typical toys and all. I wanted her to learn through the daily things. It was just my mom also, she guided me. So I used to buy those toys from
Educational toys.
Educational toys, yes. So, and she was so thrilled. She used to sit for hours together doing all those puzzles and all, you know. So my mom, she used to come for her summer holidays to Kolkata, and then interacting with Nikitha, her seeing her intelligent, because she has been an educationist for so many years. I think it was in class 1, KG or 1, that she was doing this plus minus, and she was telling my mother, Dida, add 2 numbers here, add 2 numbers in the front and back, and let me do the addition. She said, my God, the little girl is asking for, you know, more numbers. So, and she did the sums, you know. So then my mom said, which really made me think, and I planned my life accordingly. She said, Nipa, remember, your child is a gifted child. There's some word in your education field which is called a gifted child. So these children, you have to be very careful, because these children are very intelligent, but then if you don't take care, or you put a lot of pressure on them, or you're always dominating and shouting at them, then they can either go up the scale and do brilliant, or they can go down the scale and you will not be able to control your child. So please see to it that you take care of your daughter, because she's really intelligent. So I said, okay. So anyhow, I had already started doing all those New Union, those educational toys and all. So I decided that I'm going to open my clinic. I'm going to work when she joined the school and all. What do you call that? Montessori school and all. So I used to drop her. I used to pick her up. Tell my patients, aap baithiye chair pe, and I'm coming. Karke, I used to drop her and pick her up. As you know, like I never wanted my child to be taken care by an ayah or a driver. Even if they are there, I'm going to be around. So, so that, you know, like it was more of a quality time. I'm seeing patients at the same time. I'm being a professional. I didn't want to deprive myself also. So I tried to balance, because my clinic was just next to her school. I had to walk down, and for that I used to be really appreciated by the teachers. So they used to say, you are a working woman, and look at the way you should pick up your child, and they really were happy. And Nikitha did go to a very good school, La Matnia, very, very encouraging. Lot of extracurricular activities they had in the school along with the education. So this is good that I was lucky that she was also starting in a very good school where the teachers were very, very helpful and very, very understanding. And of course, one thing also I would like to say, this girl has never ever taken a tuition. She, like, this was another story. She was in class 4. So I used to teach her. I used to teach her everything, because my mom used to say, Nipa, you have to take care of your daughter, take care of your daughter. So I used to teach her. So class 4 final exams, she comes and says, before the final exam, she says, Ma, stop spoon feeding me. I said, what do you mean? She said, you're not going to teach me anything. I'm going to give this exam on my own. Maybe I'll get a little less marks, doesn't matter, but I will learn on my own. I said, okay. I said, I
don't remember this.
Okay, yeah, okay, very good, very good. But I was really scared. But this girl, she did it. And from that time onwards, from class 5 onwards, she used to study on her own. Whatever classwork, homework and classwork she used to get, Even in maths, she used to read from the chapter A, chapter 1, A, from like a story. She did all her maths, everything on her own, physics, chemistry, anything she couldn't understand. She used to call her Dida. Dida? And Dida was at the time in Delhi, huh? At that time, we didn't have all these cell phones and all. So she's making an STD call. And we would also budding doctors, Anyhow, we says, okay, doctor wants to ask Dida. So Dida, follow? Okay, Ma, I'm not able to do the sum. So Dida says, okay, just tell me what is the sum. I'll call me back after half an hour. So Dida will explain her everything. She had a spare pet things, like Bangla, her father used to teach. And he's a Punjabi, I'm a Bengali from Delhi. So I used to teach her the Hindi. I used to teach her Hindi and the Bengali from his...
No, Papa used to teach me Hindi.
Hindi and, oh yes, Hindi and Bengali, yes. Yes, Hindi and Bengali, all languages. At the end of the thing, after the results, she used to give, us. K first, K second, who's first, second and third. Like Dida is
Mana Baba.
Yes. And Ma, you're second, Baba, you're third. So we used to get, the thing is, main thing what I did, because she was so bubbly, she was so inquisitive, I really didn't want her to suppress in any way. Even when she was growing, she joined the Duke of Edinburgh. She used to play football. She used to play basketball. She was an all-rounder, and she did get her all-rounder award as a junior and her senior. She got both the all-rounder awards in La Matnia. She was and good in singing, good in sports. So, whatever she wanted to do, Uday and myself always allowed her. Only thing is like going and staying over in somebody's house overnight. Hey, please, no.
Yeah, you were very strict parents.
Yes, I was.
But I think I would like to say that being at the receiving end of parenting, or parents who have been, because I get asked this a lot in interviews, that did you drop out of college, because being a musician, I think we're all expected to be dropouts of some kind or the other. So when people get to know that, oh, we heard that you were in dental school, so did you drop out, what's the story there? And then I have to kind of give a little background that no, I'm quite a nerd, I did everything the way, by the books. I don't have some crazy childhood stories where I was, some party animal or whatever people think, whatever preconceived notion people have of musicians, because I think people do stereotype all kinds of careers. And I think being at the receiving end of such parenting, I think one thing, because I can give I guess honest feedback about it, one thing that I really appreciated from the child's perspective is that I was never told don't do this, don't do that. If I was told not to do something, I was always given a reason for it. I think that is something that I see doesn't happen with every child, and I feel really bad about that, because I think what a lot of children miss growing up is because it's just human nature that when you're told to not do something, you want to do it. And that's just human nature, and that's how I guess bad influences or bad habits develop in kids and children. And I think one thing that I really appreciate is that I was always told why, so it built a really strong conscience in me, which is why, when, like Ma said, that I wanted to take charge of my own academics and I didn't want her to teach me anymore. And I think all of those steps that were taken, I don't remember all of this, but whatever maybe adult decisions that I made as a child was because I was never told don't do this and not given a reason for it. I was always told, no, you can't go outside because, okay, if say, for example, if I was really small and I would ask Ma Baba ki everybody is going, everybody's allowed to go outside the complex, why can't I go outside? So they would not tell me that no, you can't go, and not give me a reason. They would say, no, we don't want you to go because the world is whatever, and we want you to be safe, and there are all kinds of people outside, and they would explain to me. So every time I was told to do something or to not do something, I was always given a very reasonable explanation. So I was always treated like an adult, that I deserve to know why. And I think that is a very, very quintessential part of being parented, and from the receiving end, because it's so important for us to build our own sense of judgment. And I think that is, if I had to complain about something in the education that we receive, especially in India, where our system is a little different from other countries, one thing that I do see which is different here, which can improve, is that we are always told to mug. We're always told to learn. We're very seldom told to understand. Like, we are given definitions, but we are not told. If I like, I experienced this in college also, where if someone gives me a definition and I don't say it verbatim, people get annoyed at me. And maybe I'm explaining it right, but I'm not using the exact same words. But I think one thing that happens to us as kids, maybe things have changed, because I've been out of the education system now for a few years, and my school days are quite far behind now. I'm already in my late 20s, but I hope things have become better. But one thing that we did face was that we would always be told to do things more than told to think. And maybe the fact that my parents brought me up that way really helped me determine my own circumstances. Like with the tuition situation, I know a lot of times I was, my teachers would get upset with me that why are you asking so many questions in class? Why can't you take some tuition and figure it out on your own at your own time? And I would find that so bizarre, because the whole point of going to school is to educate yourself and to ask questions and to get answers, and that is a quality that maybe I found from my parenting and not from my schooling, because my parents would always explain it to me. If I would ask a question that, Ma, why am I doing this? Why am I not allowed to do that? I would always be given a reason. I would not be snubbed that don't ask such questions, And I think that is a very basic thing that should be a basic exercise that should be allowed, because that really does mold the child's I think confidence, B, just the simple cognitive reasoning, because that is the one thing that can make or break the person's personality. If you are the kind of person who likes to think, then the sky is the limit. Even if you have to fix a nail in the wall, you're not going to call a carpenter or an electrician to do it for you, because you have cognitive reasoning. You are a open-minded person, so you will be like, oh, you can figure your life out on your own. And I think that figuring out of your life is something that stems from that basic nature within you to just explore. And I think that awakens a creative side in children as well. And I would boil it down to that.
If we may pose a small question for both of you,
Yes.
Most creative people at some point, when they are not yet famous professionals like you, get this difficult time where they have to choose between one or the other. We have heard stories of how you've balanced academics with creativity brilliantly. Could you just talk about that for a bit?
So awkward about the whole balancing it brilliantly. I don't know about that, but there have been, I'm not going to lie, I'm very pragmatic. I did not take a leap of faith. I did not have that story where, I decided to run away from home and sit outside studios, every day and wait for a break. That's not my story. I have a very, well, in that sense, a very unconventional story of the music career, because I was in dental school and I was also doing part-time classes in A.R. Rahman sir's music school. And then he started calling me for, recordings, and I started realizing that I was doing professional recordings as well. But at that juncture where I could maybe decide that either or, I just decided to stick it out, because I was doing a very serious course. I thought the right thing to do was to finish it, to have a degree, and I'm not saying this was, I get asked this a lot, that are you a dentist because your parents are dentists? That's not the answer. they didn't force me to do it. In fact, I remember in somewhere in my first year of college, because I really hated my college in the first year, and I was feeling really out of place there. I remember even filling up the Berklee College of Music application form, and I remember having conversations with my parents where they were like, if you're really not enjoying it, it's okay. It's just 1 year. So we did have these conversations where, but I think it was my own guilt or whatever that was like, no, let's stick it out. And I did the music school simultaneously, so there were difficult days. Like it wasn't like I just decided to throw one out of the window and do the other. And I think I can't stress enough how much hard work is important in any career. So there were days where I used to study because I felt like maybe I would be behind in school because I was spending all my evenings at rehearsals and recordings and not studying in the hostel. So I would actually study in the bus journey back and forth because it was like an hour away from the music school. So I would be studying in the bus. There were all-nighters that I pulled several all-nighters because I was doing studio recordings till the wee hours of the night, because as Rahman is also famously known to be recording in the middle of the night. He really does record in the middle of the night. So my recordings would finish 6 in the morning, and then I would, hop on back on a bus and get back to college and then attend college, because attendance was also an issue. So there were definitely very hard days and crazy days, but I think it's the passion and probably also the sense of security, because I didn't want to feel like, I didn't want to throw away one for the other. And I wanted there to be options for me, because it's so important to have options in this world. And I think nowadays we have more options also. It's not like you have to only be a lawyer or a doctor or something, there's so many career paths to follow. And I think almost everybody has more than one career. So it's really important to maybe understand how to balance one for the other. Like for me, I find joy to do more than one thing, because I feel like when my mind is focusing on one thing, it allows me, when I have to switch from one to the other, it allows me to focus even more, because I'm not doing the same thing again and again and again. It's not like I'm only doing the industry or only doing music. So it was tough. I won't deny that. But I think if you really want something, and if you really, want to do it all, and you really have that passion for things, you just find a way to build up enough adrenaline in your body to do it all.
That was awesome. I believe we are out of time, but before we go, if I do not ask you to sing, I know I have a very angry audience who will perhaps mob me. So
sorry, as you can tell, I like to talk a lot. more than singing. But sure, I mean, would you have any specific requests?
Go for it, whatever you have on mind.
Okay, maybe I'll quickly pull out the guitar and sing. I guess Rapta is the most famous song. I don't know what is the most popular audience demand song. But,
I think Rapta was the one of your first awards, so yeah.
Rapta was my first Bollywood song, so maybe I'll sing that for you guys. तुझसे किया है दिल ने बयां, किया निगाहों को जुबान, वादा वफा का किया तुझसे लिया है खुद को मिला, लिया दुआओं का सिला, जीने का सपना दिया, दिल के मकान में तू मेहमान रहा, आंखों की जुबान करे है बयां, कहाँ कुछ तो है तुझसे राबता, कुछ तो है तुझसे राबता, क्यों है ये, कैसे है ये, तू बता, कुछ तो है तुझसे राबता.
Incredible.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita, for the song and for your time. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Gandhi, for making the time.
Thanks, Ma.
Absolutely inspirational story that you narrated, and I'm sure a lot of parents and teachers who are here have taken stock from what you've said. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Mr. Anup Gupta. Mr. Anup Gupta, born on the 1st of April 1961, has been a media design professional now for a little over 3 decades. He graduated from the Delhi College of Art, specializing in advertising design, but started his career with India Today as a trainee in the design department in 1983. Since then, he has worked with most major news organizations in India, interfacing with various editors to design and redesign their magazines, newspapers, and journals. Over the 3 decades, he has also seen a quantum shift in the industry in the mediums of delivery and technology. For the past 8 years, Anup has been working with HT Media Limited, which is Hindustan Times, as the group creative director and has been the lead designer on all 3 redesign projects that have transformed the 3 titles from the group. For the past 2 years, he has been a part of the core team as a managing editor that is working to change the newsroom in its policies, processes, and technology, and preparing it for a digital-first world. Anup sir, if you're there, over to you. It's a privilege having you with us today.
Thank you, Subhayu. I'm very much here and completely in awe of the panel. I mean, the best part about speaking right at the end probably is that you don't have to speak too much. With Mr. Burrett, Mr. Bhattacharyya, and the Gandhis, I have pretty much nothing more to say. But nevertheless, let me give it a shot. Can you see my video or?
Yes, sir. We are getting a video as well as your audio loud and clear.
Great. So I've been now in this profession for about 38 years and it's been a wonderful ride. It's been not as exciting as Nikita's ride, probably, but it's been a wonderful ride. And I've learned a lot along the way. A lot of it has already been touched upon by Mr. Burrett and Bhattacharya and the Gandhis. But nevertheless, I will try and say a few things, 3 points practically. It is important to stay inspired. And that is, to my mind, the foundation on which creativity flourishes. It is important to stay inspired because that's when you get your ideas and you get to design things which are creative. It is important to do the second thing, break the mold, just the way that Nikita has done. It's amazing. And thanks to, all credit to her parents who have nurtured her, guided her on this process. I'm sure she also had some very good teachers at school who let her do what she wanted. She didn't speak about them, but I'm absolutely certain she had. I had some very nice, very encouraging teachers at school who also let me do what I wanted. I was part of the choir, but I never made it to the level that she has. But yeah, I did pretty well. And the last thing is, whatever we ask our children to do, we must encourage them to go deep into it to understand what is it that they are doing. Else it becomes something which is very much on the surface and they will never experience the whole thing, as they say, right? I think if you talk about creativity is all around us. And if you start from the why and get to the how and then to the what, that is when you will succeed in creativity. The best examples of probably in history of being creative are the Wright brothers, who thought that they wanted to build something that would fly, and they worked hard to understand the why of it. I believe there was someone else at the same time who was trying to do the same thing, but failed, and no one even knows about them. I think the most creative person would also be Mahatma Gandhi, because he asked the question that said, why should we be not in charge of our lives? Martin Luther King, why? And that's why they got a lot of people to walk the path with them. Creativity is basically something that allows you to find a solution to a problem, an interesting and a creative solution to a problem. And unless you really understand the why, you will never be able to find the right solution to a problem. One of the things that I've learned from my peer group, as well as from people whom I have learned my trade from, is to be inquisitive, is to ask the question. Always ask a question. Don't take anything on its face value. I guess that gives people and young minds the ability to be able to fly. Fly and break the mold. They will fall, as I fell many times, as my daughter falls many times. But it's important for us as parents and teachers to give them the belief that they can get up and fly again. And if they fall, ask them to fly again. Motivate them to break the mold. True, in the world that we are now heading towards, the post-COVID world, things are going to change dramatically. We all have to get used to working from home, as I am right now. I'm working from home for the past couple of months. We never thought that we could. Sometimes adverse conditions allow you to be creative about various things and think about things that you've never thought of. So the important thing is to be inspired, to try and break the mold, and to get into the deep end of things to understand why do we need to do, how do we need to do, and then what we need to do. Our education system, as Mr. Burrett said, used to be very different when we were growing up. Nikitha also touched upon that same aspect of it, but things are changing. I mean, there are lots of institutions, there are lots of schools out there who are doing and teaching things differently. Lots of teachers are teaching things differently. So there is hope, and there is enough reason for us to believe that the generation that we are bringing up, our children, they will be inspired enough to break the mold and be passionate enough to ask the questions and do things the right way. I think I'm going to keep it very sweet and short because there could be some questions, and if there are, I'd be happy to take them. Unfortunately, I can't sing like Nikitha can.
I was just about to put that request across given your prior history. But sir, before we move on to the next speaker, I just have a small request of you. You get a lot of young artists who come into Hindustan Times every day, looking to become the next big cartoonist or becoming a commercial artist. Today, we have on this panel a lot of attendees who are parents and teachers who deal with students who are showing their first sparks of being creative. What would be your advice to them?
Keep your and ears and mind open. Inspiration can come from any quarter. You could be the next Steve Jobs, and if he hadn't attended that class that he took in calligraphy, he probably would not have been the Steve Jobs that we know. inspiration and concept for the inspiration for the concept can come from anywhere. Read a lot, read voraciously, keep your eyes and ears open, observe what's happening around you, watch people, see what they do, because there may be a spark in that. Parents, encourage your children to do what they want to do. Give them the support, talk to them, explain to them what is happening. There is no reason for us to hide what is happening around us. Sometimes we want to protect our children and probably hold back a little. Maybe we should not. Maybe we should just let them understand, because as they go forward, these are the things that they will remember, that they will take forward in their lives. And this is the experience that they will draw from to come up with ideas, to come up with different things. They could build something for humanity. They could draw a wonderful cartoon that can say a lot. We have some amazing illustrators and cartoonists who work for Hindustan Times and for other publications that I have been associated with in the last 38 years. And all of them have always surprised me with their depth of understanding, with the depth of the knowledge of human psychology. And at the end of the day, it is all about seeing something and that making you think, and that making you think hard about a topic that you probably had not thought of. We have all learned that the invisible part of a society that made us live our lives comfortably were the migrants. And they have gone. So it is important for us to realize that we need to appreciate and understand and take cognizance of everything that is happening around us. And that's how we will grow and grow up to become not just good human beings, but also to be fine, creative minds.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
And I think with that small bit about human nature gives me the perfect segue to introduce to you our next speaker. Our next speaker is Bijoya Sawian. Sawian. I need to get that pronunciation correct. Bijoya Sawian is a translator and writer who lives in Shillong and Dehradun. She studied... Yes, ma'am?
Just put it on for me.
She studied at St. Khasi High School and Loreto Convent in Shillong and did a master's in English at Miranda House after graduating in English literature from Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi. Her works essentially deal with the life and culture of the Khasi community of Northeast India. Several institutes of repute, including the Sahitya Academy and the Institute of Folklore Studies, Bhopal, have published her short stories and critical essays. Her book, Shadow Men and Two Stories, published by Speaking Tiger Books, has been shortlisted for the Rabindranath Tagore Literary Prize 2020. She is also the chairperson of the Annfield Senior Secondary School in Vikasnagar, Dehradun. It's our privilege to have Ms. Bijoya here with us today. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, ma'am.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I've just been really enjoying what has been going on since the beginning of the session. I'd like to start with, because I run a school and I'm so much in touch with the children, I'd like to start on creativity, creating good relationships. Because I feel that emotional well-being is a precursor to cerebral growth. And there's definitely emotional illiteracy, ethical illiteracy, spiritual illiteracy which we have to tackle. So it was really nice the other day when a parent dropped by and said that, you know, this is really sad that my child can't come to school, and we feel very hemmed in at home. He's feeling terrible, she's feeling terrible, my daughter. But I also got to know that she had a great emotional need for me as a mother. And in turn, I also felt the same. I felt that there was an emotional vacuum that should be filled, which I was neglecting because I was working so hard. So both of them gained from it. And I think that's just wonderful. And there was a father who said, you know, I caught my son smoking and he was really in a panic. And I said, look, it's not a big deal. I mean, he's only in class 10 and he should not smoke because it's not healthy. But did you gain anything by connecting with him through this incident? And he said, yeah. He said, actually, I learned so many other things about what his wants, his dreams, through the little bit of, altercation they had. And I've actually learned something about fatherhood. So I said, that's really wonderful. I think that's what we are gaining from this time of this great crisis that we are going through, is that we are learning to nurture our relationships. And I always feel that a happy child will always be a successful child. And successful is not defined only by results and, brilliant results and about books and stuff like that. So creativity, we have to nurture in our children now. Now I'm dealing with, I work in a semi-rural background and are from Dehradun. So we can't really talk about technology. So what they're learning, the children, like the mother who discovered how much she needed her child and how much her child needed her, they're doing embroidery together. They're singing folk songs together. They're from the hills across. And rediscovering their roots. And this is creativity for me. And I want to introduce, when the term begins, I don't think we can begin before September, at least for the juniors. I want them to introduce things like gardening, basket weaving, and the traditional art and sculpture and stuff like that, so that they reconnect with nature, the hills, the streams, which is all around them, but they've forgotten because they were so busy doing homework. They were so busy trying to get good results, And this period, I hope it'll end. But I also hope that a lot of people will learn from it. Like as a child in Shillong, for example, in the late 1950s, like storytelling. Storytelling was the main source of entertainment. And I think that's where my creativity began. Because, for example, they used to tell folk tales, or they'll be reading from Grimm's those fairy tales, Grimm Brothers, or Aesop fables. And I realized that, folk tales are very important because those who couldn't read, like some of our aunts and so on, they'll tell folk tales. So I'll go from one place to another and I'd hear, say, a folk tale like how the peacock got his beautiful feathers. I'd hear different versions. So then you realize that, you can create stories. For example, one aunt would tell the relationship between the peacock and the sun in a more intense manner, and how everything was like transcreation. And I think my creativity sprung from there. And storytelling should also be encouraged as one of the creative skills, because, you actually, reading a book is quite a lonely, though I'm a writer, well, it's a lonely profession. Plus, when you're reading a book, you're really alone. But if you're listening to stories, we used to have elders, we used to sit around the elders, we used to connect with them, and that emotional nurturing, which is so important, was very evident. So I think that when we talk about creativity, we talk according to our environment. Like I understand people in the city, they're going to be talking, about creativity with a lot of technology involved. But we in the rural areas, I think we're as lucky because we're going to be reconnecting with nature. We're going to be reconnecting with our folk art, our music, our traditional skills, and that's so important. Because I feel in India, the rural areas are highly neglected. And I really feel this is so important. I mean, like the migrant problem is sort of, it's a statement that showed that we were so unaware of people who are part of us, who are part of society. And we just blank them out of our consciousness once their job is over. But I think this period of healing as an educator, I feel very happy that I'm in this semi-rural area. And because you're connecting at a more real, it's a different reality. I'm not saying that in the city it's not real, but here there are the roots. Like, a tree cannot grow without its roots. You can fly, you can go anywhere. If you're rooted, you'll always feel your foundation is strong. So I hope to nurture these skills amongst the children. The loss is that, the interaction, the human interaction. I had got in contact with a counselor to do counseling for the teachers and the parents and the children. Then we had got an art and music teacher who was going to do the conventional, art and music classes, dance and music classes. We had got an open air learning center, which we're going to start like something like Shantiniketan, but here the children were going to teach the teachers. Want to know what they want to say. And I thought the best way to communicate in a very creative way is that they say, okay, I'm the teacher today, and I want to say this to you. So I hope that post-pandemic, we really need a quantum jump into a different educational system. It was so sterile, and as Nikitha said, you just mug up and you put down on paper and you wait for those results. It was dismal. It was very, very, very worrying. Because that's not education. Education involves, at the end, if you're truly educated, you should be able to live a life of productivity and a life in which you contribute towards your community, a life in which you are totally in sync with your inner self. So this is what I feel. There's a story about that Cherokee lead. I think everyone has heard the story about the Cherokee chief. This is about storytelling. He had his grandchildren and the village children around him, and he was trying to tell them something. So he told it in a story, which is like a value education class. And he said, there are two worlds inside us. One stands for honesty and for honor, and the other stands for envy, for greed, for hatred, for sloth, and they're always fighting within you. And one, I think his grandson asked him, which wolf won? And the Cherokee chief answered, the one you feed. So this awareness of our inner selves has to be tapped in this time of healing. And we as educators can encourage children through these stories. And I think it'll do a world of good. I hope this period ends. It's really very disturbing. But it also has another side to it. And I think it had to come. Simply had to come. So this is what I feel about nurturing skills. It should be according to the environment, according to children's background. And we should really go back to our roots to an extent to be able to jump forward and tap our inner selves and reconnect with our family, our friends, and nature and the environment. We cannot live without the environment. I mean, we have been very careless about it. And I tell the children here, I said, you go to the mandir carrying flowers, and on the way you're eating chips and toffees and you're throwing them along the way. You've already disrespected God, because nature is God's greatest creation. So these are the things which come to our minds now that we are not, we're not sort of bogged down by the books and this terrible syllabus, which is so heavy. And I hope something good will come out of it. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sorry, I had kept myself on mute and was speaking. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for sharing those wonderful thoughts. And it's great to see people who are running schools, especially, to have this attitude of change, because post this lockdown, the education system is going to see a significant amount of change. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and being with us here today.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have come to the point where we will ask some of the questions that you've been posting and you have submitted while registering to our esteemed panelists. Before that, however, given that we are talking today about creativity, I would be amiss if I did not take this opportunity to quickly show you what we thought was a creative approach to digital education. This is the product that we've made. We are terribly proud of it, and we can't help showing off. So as you know, Notebook has been made completely free for all students and teachers to use right now. That's the username and password that you can use. As you enter, you see various topics mapped to the CBSE curriculum. When we started working on Notebook, we said, how will we make an impact in the students' learning curve? And the answer was very simple. While growing up, our favorite way of reading has always been the comic books. Cartoons in the corner of the newspaper or in any publication still catches our eyes first. Comic books, the comic book panels, gave us a clue as to how the mind works. And this was substantiated by research done at Yale and Harvard University. When you show a human being two states of something happening and nothing in between, the mind conjures up what had happened in between. The learner, the listener, becomes an active participant in the learning process, where they start imagining the two steps that must have happened between whatever is being shown on the screen. I will take this opportunity to quickly take you to one of our topics and kind of show you how these illustrations work for us. Amanda is a poem that's perhaps resonant with today's theme, where this mother is rebuking a child for doing everything wrong. Instead of,
hello students,
instead of going the route of having a lot of animations showing the child being scolded by a mother, we said, why not use various states of what was happening? So drawings, hand-drawn illustrations made by wonderful artists were used to portray various parts of the poem. That there is the trouble with technology. We will leave that for now and go back to the question answer session, because I'm quite sure all of you are really wishing that we get your questions answered by the panel here. If I may direct the first question to Dr. Gandhi. Dr. Gandhi, if you're still here.
Yeah, I'm there.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, we have a question that asks, do you suggest parental counseling? Is it more or equally important to child counseling? If you could take this one, please.
parental counseling should be done. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, loud and clear.
Okay. So yes, parental counseling should be done. In fact, we should have interactions with the parents. The parents should sit and discuss among themselves also. I remember in class when Nikita was in class KG, so the class teacher, Mrs. Ritu Saraugi, one of Nikita's favorite teacher, she had called all the parents with the father and mother, along with the children. So we were in the same class and we had a nice discussions because it's like the starting of her school, lower KG. So she had talked to us about parental counseling only, and it was a nice interaction. So I could make out a lot of a lot of parents were thinking, "Arey, what is this waste of time? They spoiled our time. They called us to listen to the teachers and all." Were a few of them who were cribbing, but most of us really enjoyed because it's after all your own child, because even we are learning. We are not inborn parents. We are also learning. We are asking our parents how to take care of them. So it is very important that both child counseling and parent counseling should be done. I think the thing is, what I want to say is communication is the best way of solving a lot of problems. One must communicate among yourselves, with the child, and the father and mother should communicate. Parents should, they should communicate with the child, and grandparents, everybody. So, the more you talk, the more you discuss, the better it is for everybody.
Shwaya, can I come in for a second on this?
Yeah.
Shall I go?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, let me just build a little bit on what Dr. Gandhi just said. And this is from my personal experience from the school that my daughter started in. They had a teacher counselor in the school, teacher guide. And that lady in the junior years insisted that kids would only draw in the class. So for the first 2 years of her schooling, my daughter, Pia, just drew every day. I asked this lady in one of these sessions, why do you ask for this? And she said a very interesting thing. She said, if the child draws, the motor muscles in the hand improve. If the motor muscles improve, her writing will improve. If her writing improves, she will love to write. And true, my daughter's writing is reasonably good. She loves to write. And that was the counseling that I received. In that same session, there were many other parents who were also, just as Dr. Gandhi said, complaining about why were they called to the school for this.
Exactly.
Then an amazing thing happened. This lady, Mrs. Govinda, asked this parent who was complaining, why have you been away from home for so long? The man was taken aback. She explained he had disappeared from the drawings.
True.
And that's what counseling is all about. He apologized, and I think he didn't realize what he was getting into. Parental counseling is very, very important. It is very important, and you need good counselors for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I mean, this question was really phenomenally well answered by both of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. The next question is for Burrett, sir. Sir, if you're there.
Yes, Ubayu, I am.
So the question asks, how to promote and nurture creativity amongst kids, apart from conducting arts and music classes for them, even amongst teachers, how do we nurture creativity?
Ah, okay. So I think that schools that practice a holistic form of education have to very gradually put more and more activities onto the buffet table. And apart from music and art, I think they've got to increase very slowly the range of activities that children can take to. Having said that, we need to help teachers and students take initiative. Encourage initiative by telling them what to do, but not how to do it, and not breathing down their throats by standing behind them. Let them make mistakes, and as Mr. Gupta so rightly said, let them fail. When a kid is not scared of failing, he will try again and again till he succeeds. But the moment you rap him on the knuckles when he drops his first plate, then he's not going to pick it up again. The other thing is that a school has to have inspirational leadership from its heads and teachers. Maybe if there's not enough teachers, then you need to have guest speakers and parents and other visiting faculty or visitors who are inspirational. I was inspired by actors and dramatists and poets who came and visited our schools. And what a school values and what a school awards and what a school feels proud of, it will also encourage. So if a school only honors its sportsmen, it will create sportsmen. If a school honors its students, academics, by putting on the newspaper how many 95% they got, they will encourage that. But if a school encourages its artists and creative people and gives awards, talks about them at assembly, then you will always encourage that too. And lastly, I'd say that I think teachers and heads should know their students, getting to know them, connecting with them. Because I think every kid has gold in them. There's a spark in every child. And if you know your children, you just have to encourage and support that spark. So an example is a student might speak very well. Now the teacher looks at that and calls the student and tells him that, I think you speak very well. You have a beautiful spoken voice. Have you ever thought of, being a compere, being a DJ, being a MC? And then takes him under his wing, encourages him. And that's the way by you grow talent by supporting it. You first find it and then you support it. I hope that answers the question, Shubhai.
Wonderfully, sir. Thank you. I'm sure the person who asked this question will take these lessons to heart. The next question, Mr. Gupta, if you can bother you for another one. The question has been asked.
Don't bother at all.
All right, sir. The question has been asked, what is the best way to train people to be creative? What I will do is change that a little bit. Because of your vast experience with particularly art forms, do you believe that creativity is something that can be trained to begin with? Or is this something inborn that has to be nurtured?
But quite honestly, it is not all about perspiration. It's a lot about inspiration. And I think there are lots of examples around the world where it is the concept that matters, not how you draw it or how you render it. There are lots of evocative artworks which have inspired movements where the drawing, the quality of the drawing was not important. It was the concept that was important. And that's what you can do only if you're inspired. If you're inspired and understand, like I said, the why. How you do it and what you do comes second and third. Why do I need to do something that I need to do? Why do I need to ask colored people in the United States to stand up for their rights? Is what drove Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi. Why do I need to be governed by someone else who doesn't even believe, doesn't belong to my country? Why do I need to fly? Why can I not fly? Right? All of these questions have to start with the why. So if you are inspired enough, you can practically come up with a concept that really flies. How you put it together, What you put it together as is secondary and tertiary. You can always ask that. I take inspiration from a lot of my colleagues who probably can't draw, who probably have never been to a creative, but I talk to them because I want the inspiration from them. I listen to them when they talk. And then when something hits me, I come up with an idea, multiple ideas at that, and toss it up to them. What works? Does this work? Can I look at it this way? Can I look at it that way? What perspective should I see? What prism should I evaluate it through? It's the same thing that I try and do with my daughter. I constantly keep asking her, try it. I mean, why would you want to bake a upside down pineapple cake? And she does a very good job at that. If you want to do it, if you make a mistake, it's got a little burn, that's okay. Make it again. Just make sure that you don't put too much sugar in it, that caramelizes too much. If you tell people, if you tell your wards how to go about it, I'm sure you will be able to explain it to them, and they will start thinking, they will start analyzing. If you analyze, you get creativity. And that's very, very, very important. In a school, the most, to start analyzing, asking questions, not being wrapped on the knuckles for asking a question. Asking questions, encouraging kids to ask questions. Thank you.
Burrett sir, I see you've raised your hand. Would you want to add to this?
Yes, just to add on to Mr. Gupta, we had a boy in school, Shubhayu, who was very keen on flying. And he came to us with a plan that he was going to make a microlight. The school encouraged him. So to put it, and to cut a long story short, he actually made and designed a microlight in a workshop. He used aluminium, he used cutters. He actually flew this. And he was, the Guinness Book had him as the youngest person to actually make a microlight and fly it. I mean, that is creativity, in my view.
Wonderful. The last question that we have time for today, Bijoya ma'am, if we can ask you this, because you bring in the experience of running a school. Ma'am, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Yeah. The question asks, what, according to you, would be some of the strategies and yardsticks educators would need to adopt in today's fast-paced world in order to nurture creativity among the young? Strategies and yardsticks.
Well, as I said, I'm in a semi-rural area, so my strategy is completely different. So I think what we plan to do is that, if the school doesn't reopen, we are going to have art competitions, children to draw and sketch what they feel, and encouraging the parents also to do the same. And probably come in a few of them every day to just explore the grounds of the school, maybe plant trees, and just being creative in the natural way, because we out in the country. So the main strategy is to be outdoors and maybe plant saplings, and indoors while it's raining to do a lot of art and sculpture and things like that, and storytelling. That's the strategy we have. And we are going to involve parents as well, because they're also under great stress because of the crisis. So that is what we're going to do. Because, we have to instill the joy of learning now, the joy of learning in the new normal way. And that is what we plan to do.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Can I just come in for a second, Shweta?
Sure, sir.
I'm going to narrate a very interesting thing that happened with my daughter when she was in a kindergarten school. And the general elections were going to happen. Imagine for a 5 or a 6-year-old to understand what elections are all about. Now, this lady, Mrs. Govinda, I mentioned about earlier, she devised a very interesting thing. She got the kids into groups, and the candidates were very interesting. The pigeon, the rabbit, the cow, and the goat. And each group was asked to canvass for that. And then they came and voted which was the best animal. That was, I thought, a bloody creative idea of explaining to a 5-year-old how election happens. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Unfortunately, that's all that we have time for today. We know there are more questions. People are going to get angry with me because we are shutting it off here. But we promise you, if there are questions you have addressed to specific speakers and panelists, we will send the questions to them over email and we will get back to you with all the replies. With that, we come to a close for the day. Before inviting Achin for the vote of thanks, a quick recap. To nurture creativity, make sure that your children are inspired. Make sure that they're exposed to every single influence that you can get. Make sure that they're unbridled, that they're not captured in one place. Open them up to nature and let them run their course. That's the takeaways for today's session that we have learned from all our esteemed panelists. It's been a fantastic discussion. This has been your host, Shubhayu Roy. Achin, for the vote of thanks, over to you.
Sure. We had a wonderful session today. Burrett sir, great insights, very crisp, yet very relevant and thought-provoking. Dr. Gandhi, thank you so much for your time. We got to learn the right mix of discipline, maturity, and flexibility that a parent must exercise. Thank you again. Nikitha, thank you for coming in and for that beautiful song. I'm sure your presence today will inspire many more success stories. Wish you many more milestones in your illustrious career so that you make all of us proud. Mr. Gupta, each word that you said was worth its weight in gold. I was taking notes. Get up and fly again. Great spirit. You advocated the right spirit, also keeping ears and mind open. Thank you indeed. Bijoya ma'am, you brought in a very unique and relevant perspective with what you said today. Wonderful thought, and thank you so much for being with us today. I also thank our audience for being with us today evening. We look forward to having you with us for our next session on Wednesday, 17th June at 5 p.m. on a very interesting topic, leveling the playing field. Have a lovely weekend. Stay safe, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All the best. Have a great weekend. Bye.